When I put these videos together for you on YouTube here, I imagine that you might be sitting in the room with me, and I relate this to the thousands of clients that I've spoken to over the 35 years I've been doing this. Business owners, hopefully just like you, who are running their business with their spouse, family, small team, desperately trying to make things work more than you would expect them to work and live a happy, fulfilled life. In other words, you want to make a bit more money and have an easier life, and somehow you think that your business is going to get you there, and it can and it will. And we've worked with thousands of businesses over the years where success really has come true for them. But equally along the way, let's not kid ourselves, I've also worked with thousands of businesses where it hasn't worked. And that doesn't mean to say the person has given up on their hopes and dreams. It's just that the thing that they were doing didn't work, and maybe they've had to start again, maybe they've had to regroup, maybe they've had to change things completely. That's part of the challenge of being an entrepreneur. In amongst all this, I utilize and use some of the common things that I've experienced with my clients. I'm going to try and share that with you here. And I'm going to share with you this thing called the Valley of Despair. You might know about it. Or you may never have heard of it before, but I'll show you how it relates to real world problems. And some of the problems that occur on a regular basis are cash flow problems. And I want to address that here, give you some tips and tools and know-how that should you experience a cash flow problem, you can actually do something about it, and why the Valley of Despair is part of that process. And I think if you understand the value of despair and you can relate it to something like cash flow, you can start relating to other problems that you might experience within your business. So here goes. We have had clients come to us over the years who have said things like, oh my God, I've got to pay staff wages at the end of the week or the end of the month, and I don't think I'm going to have enough money. My thought, I used to say it out loud, but now my thought is, why didn't we have this conversation before? We could have perhaps done something about it, versus, okay, let's jump in and help you fix this fast. And the way that I do that is, the first thing that I insist that the person does is grab a spreadsheet and list each column as a day. A daily cash flow is what we're going to do. So we're going to put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You might not work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Put the date in, the first, second, third, etc. We're going to put our sales in over here, and we're going to put our costs down here. And because it's a daily one, our sales might be customer by customer. So this customer is going to pay here and here and here, and these costs are going to go out here, 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 etc. Okay, so we're going to plot them as to when we think the sales money is coming in and the costs are going out on a day-to-day basis as a cash flow. Gross money coming in, gross money coming out. Then we're going to total up the money in and the money out at the bottom, work out the difference, which is the balance, and carry the balance forward, so that we can ultimately see how the money comes in and out throughout the business throughout this 30-day period. Now, you can do it for a week, but 30 days is better. Now, if you've got wages to pay on the 30th of the month and that's causing most of your problem, let's extend that for the next 2 to 4 weeks just to see how that goes. And the reason that we're doing this, and hopefully you don't ever have to do this, but if you suddenly find you're worried about money, just do a daily cash flow. Because quite often the pain point is on one day. That's the day that you run out of money, either because your bank balance will be zero and you need to pay out more money after that, or you've got an overdraft facility and you're going to blow over the top of the overdraft facility. It doesn't matter where that is. You just got to find out what that is. Because a lot of the time it can be simply timing. This cost going out here could be moved that way. This income could be moved that way. This cost could be moved that way. And if we move costs the other side of the line and bring income this side of the line, you can immediately see that that graph or that number can change. It may also be that you're so caught up in the worry of this problem over here that you forget, and I say forget because you get distracted so much, that actually you've got a pipeline of sales coming in that need following up. You need to have some conversations, and you need to change perhaps the way that you sell to people. A lot of business owners believe that they should sell their services, sell their products, and allow 30 days to be paid, 60 days to be paid. Why? Because that's how everybody's done it for many years. Well, back in the 1960s, when the shopkeeper kept a note of your groceries that you bought from the shop in that week, and you settled your bill at the end of the week, it wasn't a problem. But now, with globalization and modern technology, more and more people have taken advantage of that, and instead of paying their bills on time, they've delayed, and therefore this whole culture of delay now comes in, and therefore we think as business owners we should give people the opportunity to pay us when they want to. No, you have to change the structure of how you get paid. Here's a quotation, or rather an action plan for the work that I'm going to do for you. Send me some money and then we'll start the work. Now, if you've got a bunch of people coming along who are about to engage your services and you got paid now rather than in 30 days, would that one single piece of money coming in have an impact on your cash flow? The answer is almost definitely yes, it is. Now, we don't want to be doing that sort of exercise of a daily cash flow here on out for the rest of our days. One, it can be very tiresome. Two, it's very draining. They're hard work to do, okay, to keep them completely up to date all of the time. But we want to get to the point where we go, we don't need to, because we can see for the next 30, 60 days, there isn't a cash flow problem. Now we can revert to a monthly. And therefore you end up with, off the back of this, let's get the blue color here, instead of a daily cash flow, a monthly cash flow, okay, which is the same structure, sales, costs, money in, money out, but a month by month basis. Now, here's the thing. You would be amazed at how many businesses don't do this. I have recently been working with somebody with a company that has 2,000 employees plus. They are a big worldwide company. You would know their name if I told you. And the person who I've been working with was telling me that this company doesn't have a budget and a forecast. One doesn't exist. There used to be, but the accountant got busy, stopped doing it. Guess what? The company was been struggling a little bit. There's no cash flow forecast and budget. They have one now because they've had to put one in place to make things happen. But that isn't uncommon. There are lots of really big businesses out there. There are many small businesses out there who do not pay any attention to doing any form of budget and forecast. Now, how does all this fit into what we call the valley of despair? Well, you'll see the pattern. We start off in our business with uninformed enthusiasm. We think we can achieve everything in a shorter amount of time it's ever going to take. We believe everything's going to be easy. Let's just do this. We've got enthusiasm, energy, excitement for what we're going to do, and off we go. We don't need a budget and a forecast because that's boring, right? So we just get on and we make some sales and the money comes in and it's all working. So there's money in the bank, so therefore it must be okay. And sometimes it is. Sometimes, and I've seen businesses that have run for 30, 40 years, never done a budget and forecast, always made money because the type of business they run, the way they run it works. But I can see problems with that type of business that the business owner can't. But they don't want to know because they're making enough money to do the thing they're doing. I'll give you an example of that. A garage who mends cars and does MOTs is a pretty good benchmark because they do the same thing day in, day out for 5, 6 days a week. And sometimes those businesses will run for 30, 40, 50 years. Sometimes they're passed down from grandfather to father to son, and they're good, solid businesses mending cars. Now, what you will see when you look at a set of accounts for a garage is that there's some pretty consistent sales. It's pretty, for a good one, pretty consistent. And there's some consistent profits. A client that I have looked after for the last 30 years refuses to do any of this and just goes about his own way, has made consistently profits year in, year out that has been enough for him to provide for his family, pay off his mortgage, live a pretty good life. But on paper, I can show him, and know this from just doing the exercise, is that whilst his sales are pretty consistent and his profit is pretty consistent, inflation is eroding that value away. So today his profit is actually a little bit less than it was 30 years ago in real hard cash. Okay, but in real terms, he's actually gone backwards. His graph has gone backwards because the profit he made this year, when compared to what that would have been, say, in the 1980s, the inflation rate changes that completely. And so therefore there's a hidden damage to not doing anything there. But I then have to address this and go, I'm helping people make more money and have an easier life. And he's all in for the easier life. He's not driven by the money. And that's okay. That's okay. But we have this uninformed enthusiasm where we just get on and do the thing that we want. And then bit by bit, we end up with a little bit of informed pessimism. We suddenly go, I can't pay my wages. I've got a cash flow problem. I'm worried. And this pessimistic view comes from our feelings and emotions. You're worried, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed with things. And often because you just don't know the answer to things. It was going okay for a while, and now it's not. We've gone to this period. Now there's timeline between here and here. Could be weeks, could be months, could be years. Could be that you've had a good run of it for a good few years and suddenly you've run out of money. Okay, or you've got a problem in your business. It's not just a money thing. This is just suddenly you feel emotionally drained, overwhelmed, worried, stressed. Okay, you've lost that sense of control of what you're trying to do. Maybe you've expanded and it's all got out of control. Maybe you've got people working for you and you've kind of lost the thread of it because you haven't got the systems and processes in place. Your business has grown to a level. And this is often what we call a glass ceiling, is that people will take their business from a relatively small little business and grow that, take on some team members, taking on some people, taking on good customers, and they grow it and they get to a level that they can't seem to get beyond that level, the glass ceiling. You know that you could do more. You see your competitors doing more. You see other business owners doing more, but you can't seem to get through that glass ceiling. Okay, and that's because you've reached this point here of informed pessimism. You know just as much what's wrong as you do what's right. Up here, you just knew what was right, so you just did it. Right? Now you've got things that you know that aren't right. Now you've got gut feelings. Now you've got emotions. Now you've got problems, people problems, business problems. All this stuff's going on. Okay, and if you're not careful, you'll end up getting a little bit depressed about the whole thing. And I don't mean clinically depressed, although that can happen. What I mean is you're just a bit fed up. Okay, the honeymoon is well and truly worn off, right? You've been running this business for a while. It's suddenly become really hard. Now you're in this little valley of despair. And I said to you earlier, there's two ways to get out of the valley of despair. The first way is obvious, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. We get out. Okay, this is what a lot of people will do in the valley of despair. They'll get off. And they'll decide, I need to do something new. And in doing something new, they return to the uninformed enthusiasm about the new thing we're going to do. And off they go, full of enthusiasm. Because the difference about the pessimistic feeling and the enthusiastic feeling, I don't know about you, I like to be enthusiastic. I like to have a good day. Being happy is really cool. And this is why we talk to our clients about not just making more money, but having an easier life, because that leads to some happiness. We want people to be happy, right? And uninformed enthusiasm is a place of happiness. Okay, it's a place of, I don't really need to know what's going wrong with this. I'm just happy doing the thing that I'm doing, and off we go again. But guess what will follow in due course? Some uninformed pessimism and back to the valley of despair. Now, if you're running a business, there is certain things within a business that are pretty fundamental, regardless of what business you've got and how you run your business. Therefore, if you are running a business, guess what? You need a budget and forecast and cash flow and targets. You need a sales strategy. You need a marketing strategy. You need to work out how you're going to sell your stuff to people. You need to know who you're selling it to and where you're going to find those so that your marketing strategy is working. So we need to know this. We need to relate that marketing strategy to your cash flow and budget. Okay, it's no good you selling 10 times more if you can't deliver. Okay, but we can sell 10 times more if we put our prices up. We can get a better cash flow if we collect the money early. These then become operating procedures. This is how we're going to run our business. And you might then find as you're employing staff, you did things a certain way because that's how you operate. And you didn't need a manual or a piece of paper to tell you what to do. You just did it. But the moment you employ people, and you have people on your team, they need a little bit more structure. Not because they're stupid or anything, it's just that you need them to do the things how you want them to do. So set out your expectations on a piece of paper, on a document that says this is how we do things. Staff handbooks, staff manuals, operating procedures, health and safety. All that stuff needs documenting so that people can read it and go, so you expect me to do that? Oh, I thought you wanted me that. I need clarity. And what you're giving them is the enthusiasm as well to go with that. And as we get that, we then get informed optimism. So as we get clarity about what we're trying to do for our team, as we get clarity about what we're doing for our business, as we take our numbers forward and our target forward, we moved into a place of informed optimism. Therefore, if you said to yourself, okay, how do I get out of this cash flow crisis? And you did a daily cash flow forecast for a couple of months, and you were able to rearrange your payment structure. You were able to look at your payments and save some costs. You were able to change your sales approach. And you then started to do a budget and a forecast, and you started to have a strategy session where you were actually deliberately going after a sales target with a specific campaign, a specific targeted effort on sales that were profitable, and you started to do that, you would solve your cash flow problem. And then as you did that, you documented what you did so that you could do it again. And then you employed people to help you do that and do it again. You're then moving into informed optimism. Suddenly you become informed about the problem and how to solve it. Now you have actions, and that will lead you to results. So you're now going to do specific actions to solve those problems. So when I have people say to me, I've got a cash flow problem, and they have these mini cash flow crises, doing this daily cash flow forecast, you need to look at it every day for about 10 or 15 minutes. And so with some of our clients, I've said to them, right, 9 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have a call with me every day. And just before 9 o'clock, you're going to send me your cash flow forecast, your daily one. And when they do, I don't really read it, because I know that for them to send me that, they will have thought about it. Then I get on a call with them for 10 minutes and I go, okay, what's the 3 things that you've got to deal with today? And they say, right, I've looked at my figures. I've got to go and chase those 2 customers in. I've got somebody to follow up on. And if I get that customer in by Friday, we'll be okay. Right, your only thing to do today is to go chase that customer. Then we shut the cash flow forecast down. We don't think about it for another 24 hours, and they go and do the most important thing they've got to do, which means they've got informed optimism. Suddenly I've got this one thing that if I do this one thing today, it'll make all the difference. It's really important. And because things are running smoothly in the uninformed enthusiasm place, and things are running, we just go, well, I don't need a cash flow forecast. I've got money in the bank. We've got customers coming in. I don't need that. Yeah, you're right. You don't. You don't. But unless you build those processes in place to keep a check on it, you will end up in the valley of despair quite quickly if you're uninformed. It's the understanding of what's happening in advance that makes a difference. If I told you that you've got a tax bill, for example, to pay in 6 months' time, that is 5 times what you've normally paid, 10 times what you've normally paid, and you knew that figure, you would have made some money to be able to pay that. But your decision to spend that money, because you've done well, will be changed very, very slightly by this looming tax bill, because you know what it is, because you'll be informed, and therefore you'll have a better plan. Whereas, and you've heard stories, I'm sure, where people have a great year, earn some good money, buy the new truck, buy the new house, go on the holidays, and then in comes the tax bill, and they can't pay their tax bill because they've actually spent the money. They've spent more than they earned. It's no problem spending your profits, just don't spend more than your profits. Make sure that you've got enough to pay the bills, including the tax bill. Because the challenge is that as you make more money, you will pay more tax. We want you to pay more tax. If you come to me and say, oh, I want to save some tax, well, of course, we'll save some tax for you. But if you wanted to actually earn more money, then I'm going to say pay more tax, 10 times more tax. okay? Because you will be earning 10 times more in terms of income. So the valley of despair is there. Everybody goes through it. We all go through the valley of despair on any project or any business or any activity of life. We start off all enthusiastic. We then start getting a bit pessimistic because things aren't going quite as we thought they were. There's a gap between what we thought and what's actually happening, and that gap's growing. And you end up in this pessimistic state. And the danger is you can end up in the valley of despair. There is a time where we all end up in the valley of despair. What you don't want to do is stay there. Some of my clients tell me that they've got timeshares there. They visit it that often. They spend more time in the valley of despair than they ought to. Well, we need to fix that. Let's get out of it and find this informed optimism. And again, it's part of what these video series are trying to do. I'm trying to inform you as business owners that there's some stuff that you can do to make your life a little bit easier. And if we can help you make a bit more money and have an easier life, if a cash flow forecast is the thing that you need to do, then great, go do that. If you need some help, you know where we are. Details in the links below. We'll see you soon.